Yeah, for sure. Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. I would like to start our journey here into your story by asking you 4 years ago, everything stopped, everything got changed because of the pandemic. How did you survive that time period and how did it change you?
Well, I would say that everything changed more than 10 years ago when I started developing health challenges. And I noticed that physicians, which I am, were so stuck to diagnoses and what you do and treatments. It was kind of like a curse. They didn't really think outside the box.
Yeah.
And the people who did were the wise. So then I looked into wisdom and I'm like, wait, all these major religions talk about wisdom, all these famous people talk about wisdom, but yet we really don't know what it is. So I'm a scientist, I'm a researcher, and I was like, well, we have to figure out what it is. So in order to do a study, you always have to learn what was done beforehand. So I read some articles in geriatrics journals and psychology and sociology, and I found out that wisdom has an inverse U relationship with age, and that the wisest are usually in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and that it's not different based on gender, like race or political ideation, but it is different based on where you come from. So like Asia versus the Middle East versus North America is different. And so that's when I sought out to interview 60 wise individuals um from North America. I did know also that a computer or a questionnaire cannot find out what was wisdom. And I read all of this right up to around the pandemic. So the pandemic actually helped.
Yeah.
Because let
Yeah.
me just sit there and read about it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do today in 2024. If I put you in front of a bunch of third graders, it's career day. One of the kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
So I was a physician seeing patients, and now I identify myself more as a researcher and author. I wrote the book Common Wisdom, and that's what I do. Is now I'm in the promotion phase.
Yeah.
I'm in the getting people to understand about what I did and also reading the book.
So let's go back to the third grade for you. What did you want to be when you grew up?
So when I was young, I grew up in the Middle East and I came here when I was 6. I knew very well that women did not really do big things. And I knew I wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And I knew that early. And so that was all I knew, was that I wanted to be a doctor. Had I stayed where I came from, there's no way I would be one.
Yeah.
And coming to the US, I became one.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about your career. What was the beginnings like, especially under this guy's here? What were your beginnings like and what was the ultimate joy you garnered from it?
So I went to UCLA for undergrad. And then in undergrad, I knew in high school, I knew beforehand that I said that I wanted to go to medical school. And in undergrad, all my friends that wanted to also go into medicine were males. And I went to med school after undergrad, and then after med school, I did residency. And then after residency, I did a fellowship, which is really additional training and research.
Yeah.
So and it's residency that kind of teaches you about the specialty you're in, like if you're a surgeon, if you're a pediatrician, or whatever you do. So I chose emergency medicine, and then I did research.
So writing a book is a big, huge deal. It's a big endeavor. There's a lot that goes into it. You're talking about being in the publicity phase. Talk to me a little bit about the journey of this book, the beginning thought to right now where you're at.
So I approach it with the mind of, you know what, I'm an objective researcher, and I really want to take a topic, wisdom, that is more subjective, and kind of quantify it, to kind of explain it and explain what goes into it. And I had seen in the literature that, a computer or a test won't tell you if someone is wise, another person does. So I told everyone I'm doing the study, and I found people that nominated other people. I did have a research assistant help me, and we had someone also do the marketing, telling people about the project.
So talk to me a little bit about who's been an inspiration, a hero. You're obviously in a high end field. You've done very difficult things in your life. Who's been that inspiration for you?
I don't know if I can say that's the hard part, is that I don't know anyone that is in medicine that has become more spiritual or kind of looked at a topic like this. Or I don't know anyone that, someone else asked me, they're like, wait, wisdom and you're a scientist? That you don't, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know anyone. So have I met someone that has done both? No.
Yeah.
I think when I was in medicine and when I was more of the scientist, physician, just mainly more physician, I definitely had mentors that did that. And now that I've written the book and I've looked at these 8 elements that define wisdom, I've been like, well, I'm looking more at people who are not the scientist physician that look at these elements, that embody these elements.
But the thing but the thing is that in life, some of the most magnanimous things that happen involve the right and the left part of the brain. I mean, there's a holistic approach that makes sense to me. I mean, I personally, I do IT for a day job, but I'm also very involved in, painting. That's one of my paintings and art and just all of those things. So it's like I get that. That makes sense to me.
It's funny because they have found that people who engage both the right and left part of their brain are happier or more, I would say, balanced. And I see what you're saying. You have the logical side and you have the creative side, but I think it's really important to have both sides.
Yeah.
And that goes to my creativity was my seventh element, but we're all creative. I
Yeah.
think if you think of little kids and you think of what we turn out to be when we're older,
Mhm. Yeah.
we were creative when we were kids.
Right.
We were curious, we were creative, we're all those things, but we're not now.
Yeah.
So, or a lot of people are, if you see an artist, they're creative, but no, we all are.
Yeah.
So it's all a matter of how big is our creativity, how big of a part does it play in our life?
One of my favorite poets who was from Los Angeles once said, "We're born geniuses and buried idiots." When we're kids, we have all of these things, the world's open, and then all these walls and things just kind of start coming up and growing around it. And it's like there is an unfettered creativity and intellect that goes into being young.
Well, I think so. When you think about the 8 elements that I discovered, and I'll say them right now. So the 8 was resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity. And when you think about them, kids have a lot of those, but not all.
Yeah.
So I agree with the idea that, kids have a lot, but not everything. They're not,
Right.
I wouldn't say a kid is resilient. And that was the most important part. And so, but I mean, we do all have creativity and curiosity. So I think the combination is important.
I had teenagers that are obviously older now during the pandemic, and the one thing that I kept thinking about the youth was that they're going to, whether they want to or not, acquire a level of resilience.
They are, and and I think, and that's what I found when I interviewed the 60 people was they had a sense of peace about them. They didn't worry about things as much as people do.
Yeah,
They were not emotionally upset about this versus that. They kind of were like, "Oh, it'll be okay."
yeah,
And and that was something that I think we all should think about.
yeah, absolutely. So, what is your motivation every day to get up, to do the research, to write, to do what you do? What is that motivation for you?
Well, I really believe in the work I did. I believe in having spoken to these 60 amazing individuals and having written a book about it. called Common Wisdom. And after writing that book, I kind of feel like there's a sense of meaning when it comes to the idea of wisdom. There's a sense of depth. There's a sense of happiness, contentment. And I nowadays with social media, I feel like wisdom has really taken a backseat.
Yeah.
And so the idea is maybe we should call it a different name, or it's a pseudonym for something else. But the idea is, how do you have more substance and meaning in your life?
You know, it's interesting. I remember one of the first times in my jazz radio show that I interviewed a legend, and my show engineer is one of my best friends. And I was exuberant. I called and told him, and we were talking about it. And at one point, he told me, always remember, and this is very key with what you're talking about with the 60 individuals you interviewed. You're getting from them what they're probably getting from you. It's a two-way avenue. There's a symbiosis that goes into all of that. Do you feel as though after this there was a symbiosis that went in this process of the interviews?
Well, I definitely feel like so. To pick the 60, you had to be nominated
Right?
by someone else that called them wise. And they were so happy about that. They were so flattered. And when I talked to them, I definitely gained a lot because I realized, oh wait, I had no idea what wisdom was about. And now I did. I was able to explain it more. What they got out of it was definitely feeling like, oh, who I am is important. I don't have to be some famous celebrity with all this power. I what even and I don't have to answer all the questions per se,
Yeah.
as long as I think I'm just a valuable human being.
Yeah.
And but that goes back to what I believe. I believe everyone is a value,
Yeah.
and everyone has something to teach you. Everyone has something to say. I think with them, I think that was what they got out of it, though.
Yeah. So in your book, you're dispensing this level of wisdom, and there's advice, there's all these aphorisms that are going on, which would be giving good advice to people. What's the best advice that you've ever gotten?
Well, I don't know if I give as much advice. I think every chapter I have a different idea. And for example, resilience, the idea that things don't happen to you, but they happen for you. With kindness, it's not very hard to be kind. It's a very simple act, but it can go a long way.
Yeah.
Positivity will help you be resilient. Positivity is, gratitude was part of positivity, but is looking at every obstacle and saying, okay, how am I going to deal with this? And thank you for the obstacle. Thank
Yeah.
you for being positive about it. Spirituality is feeling like there was something bigger and realizing I don't know what that is. We don't, but there is something bigger.
Yeah.
Humility, the idea that it shouldn't make you feel big to make someone else feel small.
Yeah.
And everything you say requires some emotional intelligence. Tolerance, I would say, it's not just the typical racial and religious tolerance we're used to. It's more than that. It's being accepting of other viewpoints and other thoughts and other cultures. That's being tolerant. And then creativity and curiosity. I think the idea is that it's something we all have inside of us.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of letting it out.
So of all the things that you've done and evolved and become in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I would say the proudest I am is of the kids I've had,
Yeah. Yeah.
having kids.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. I didn't have a lot of help at all. And but having them, I think, makes you feel like, wait, there's more to life. And that's also going back to the idea of having wisdom is there's more to life.
Yeah. Yeah. So if everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, all of the readers of your book, all of your clients, but at the end of the day, what's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm very inquisitive. I
Yeah.
think that's how you can think of it is I will never take no for an answer. And I will find every roundabout way to find an answer to something. And I'm very inquisitive. I'm curious. and I'm very resilient. So that's how I think of myself.
So, Laura, Common Wisdom's the book. If anyone wants to pick it up, they want to reach out to you, any of the good business in your world, where do they go?
They go to Amazon, Common Wisdom. The reason I wrote common is because it was the common element amongst all the people. And wisdom, of course, they're wise, but common is what they shared. And
Yeah.
so, and Amazon has it, the common wisdom. And the reality is, it's there to kind of help people live a better life.
Yeah.
It's not there to, and remember, we all don't know what wisdom is, but I tried to define it, and
Yep.
I did.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been wonderful, Laura. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for all the hope.
You.
Great talking to you. Thank you. Best of
Okay,
luck. Take care.
bye.
See ya.